Welcome to another edition of Pages Promotions Virtual Book Festival Autumn 2020. This is a production of Indie Reads TV, and we find our home on CNM TV in Troy, Michigan. Today, we're going to be having a conversation with my friend, Andy Lockwood. He's really super cool. He writes some really cool, super cool stuff, horror, paranormal, just some great short stories. You're going to love him. If you haven't already seen his other video that we did with him, check that one out on our YouTube channel. But in the meantime, we're going to have this really great conversation. Andy, welcome.
Hi. How's it going?
Welcome. Isn't this fun? This is so much fun.
This is always fun.
I can't wait till we can get back into the studio and do this like in person, where we can like reach out and touch each other and hugs and say hello and stuff.
I will say the one thing I don't miss about the studio is those hot lights.
Well, yeah, but
you got to watch me turn from like white to red as the show progressed.
yeah, but Bailey and I were comfortable, so.
Well, I'm glad you guys were.
Even I was a little toasty by the end of it.
Really? Okay, so I'm, as you know, madly in love with your work. I'm reading everything you're putting out there. Right now I'm reading Calendar's End, so thanks for that.
How far are you?
I love it. March.
Okay, I want to apologize for October already.
Not in there yet.
What happens?
That's the dark time. October is like a really, really bleak section of the story. September, like end of September through the beginning of November, just very dark. It was Chelsea's favorite part, which really kind of weirded me out with her. But
she's another one that's one of those quiet, reserved people. She teaches for a living, and she's super scary. So since we broached the subject, tell us the backstory for Calendar's End, because we didn't talk about it last time that you were on. So,
well, Calendar's End is it's a story about the Intercalary, which are the 12 demigods who control the cycle of time. So every year they get together and they reset time. And this year, very minor spoilers, but someone comes and totally upsets the cycle and starts assaulting these people. And if they don't figure out who's doing it and why and stop them, then time's done. The world's going to end. So it's a little bit supernatural. It's a little bit mystery. It was a ton of fun and stress to write, because I wrote it in a year. I actually released it in serial format originally. So
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah,
I was pretty much, I started out with a few in reserve to give myself a buffer, but by mid-year, I was writing and releasing within 30 days.
And these, we need to make sure people understand, these are novellas. Yeah. There's a new novella for each month of the year. So 12 novellas in a year.
10 to 12,000 words every month. Because that was the goal I set for myself, was 10,000 words per piece. And then just started cranking them out. Bailey was my champion editor for all of that. She never wants to do that again. I'm not sure I ever want to do that again, because like by the end of the year, it was just like part of me just wanted to be over with it. But at the same time, like I'm starting to reach the end of the story, and like every writer knows, you start getting towards the end of the story and yes, you want it done, but there's a part of you that doesn't want to let it go.
Right.
So like I'm trying to meet deadlines, but I'm also trying to stall the deadline at the same time.
So we were having this conversation on a poll earlier on the Facebook page, writing in serial or series versus writing standalone. Now that you've done both, what's your preference and why?
I really like writing standalone because I am not committed to carrying on a legacy if I don't want to. Because like I wrote House of 13, which was supposed to be the first book in a series.
Mhm.
I have yet to continue that series. Like I keep writing all of these stories that I think are standalones. Like Empty Hallways was meant to be a standalone. Threshold was a single shot story. Everybody keeps coming to me like going like, but you've got all these like openings, like you could do this and you could do that. So like you have the potential to do that. Like I could continue the story, but it's ended right now. Like, so I don't have to. I can
Right.
surprise people and make another one.
Well, that's what I liked about House of 13 was that it did end, but at the same time, I had the anticipation of, oh, wait, but I know there's going to be more. So it was kind of like best of both worlds.
Well, good. I'm glad I could do that. I feel like I caught myself in a corner by putting that book 1 right on the spine.
But that's okay, because it kind of whets our appetite for what's coming next. And we know it's coming next. We just have to wait for it. You know, it's like Martin. We just have to wait for it.
Yep.
So at this time, I want to invite everybody to turn on their microphones. We're going to open up the room for conversation. Anybody who has questions or comments for Andy, this is the time to do it. You'll never get him in the hot seat like this again.
Till next time.
Until February.
Until February. Well, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So who would like to go first? Diana, go.
Okay, I found this new show on TV called 800 Words.
Okay.
It's a guy who writes articles for a newspaper, but he counts his words and he has to have 800 words in his article. So are you like that? You said you had a 10,000 word goal. So do you count your words, or do you just kind of, does it have to be exact? Do you go over, under?
Mine is more of a line that I need to cross. Like when I said 10,000 words, like that was as short as I wanted it to be. In November, I'm not doing it this year, but in the past when I've done NaNoWriMo, those numbers are super important. You have to do 1,667 words every day so that you can finish at 50,000 on November 30th. So like, yeah, I mean, like during November when you're trying to keep that pace, like you are aware of every single word and everyone matters. But for the most part, I tend to look at like goals. Like I want to write every story should be, if I want it to be a novel, it should be over 50,000 words and it should tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
If I've got the story out and it's done, I don't need to push it to be, like 80,000 or whatever they're setting the thresholds at now. Like,
yeah, and it changes every year.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are these charts out there that will tell you, like a mystery needs to be like 90 to 100,000 or whatever. I don't know, but like, I don't hold to that much. I just want to tell a good story.
Any other questions, comments?
Where
Go,
did you
Andrew.
get the idea for the pantheon of gods? I love that. It sounds like, just for the briefest second, it sounded like Cabin in the Woods, but yours sounds a whole lot cooler.
Well, thank you. It was because originally the idea for House of 13 was I was going to tell a story about 13 people in 13 books. So every book was going to be a unique perspective telling the same story. And I wrote that first one and was like, nope, this is not what I'm going to be able to do. I'm going to have to follow this thread. I can't flip to other people, no new narrators. So like I wanted to tell an ensemble story and kind of like follow different characters, but I needed like an excuse to have that many people. So it just kind of fell together like that.
Choosing one a month is a good way to do it too. My friend and one of my editors, I don't know, you may have met her, Callie, she's doing one story about each of the Greek gods and goddesses, and there's 19 of them.
Nice.
Cool.
So she's doing one book for each one of those, but that's a huge project. I mean,
Oh yeah.
something like that. I can't even imagine doing 12. How did you keep 12 stories in your head like that? And they all have a common, they all interconnect, which is the part that is insane to me. How did you manage to keep them separate yet interconnected.
I mean, the nice thing about it was I was writing so fast, there was no opportunity to forget the story and get distracted with anything else. But really, I mean, like a lot of it is we only bring in a few characters at a time, and then we start letting out some of the characters before we get. So like, I think at top, there's like 6 people in a scene at the most. I don't think they're never all in the room at the same time together. So I didn't have to know all 12 of them by heart during the whole time. I just had to manage the smaller group that I was dealing with then. And then,
Okay.
you know, that one exit stage right, bring in a new one. And so then I can kind of recycle personalities a little bit.
It sounds a lot like wrangling preschoolers.
A little. I mean, that's my thought. That's my train of thought in general.
With knowing you're going to have the 12 novellas in 12 months,
Uh-huh.
and they're going to have a common theme, do you spend a lot of time plotting before you started writing?
No, I am not a plotter at all. I am a pantser. And the worst, so writing in a serial format, releasing before you've even figured out how the story is going to end will.
And promising 12 stories?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, like I was committed to it when I did this, but like there are points where like you want to talk about it, like you've committed yourself to it. I'm writing parts at the end. I'm getting to the end of the story and you start realizing, wow, this would be great. I could do this. I can't. People have already read the beginning of this and know that I can't go back and change that now. So you're stuck with the plot that you've like already outlined.
There's only so much retconning you can do and make it work.
First, I got to say, Kate, Merman, Cabin in the Woods is classic. You can't set it aside. Merman is it. But second, Andy, obviously a fan. I enjoy what I'm reading so far. But as you go through it, have you considered doing something similar again? Another 12-month exciting themed serial fun?
See the look on Bailey's face right now?
Well, come on, Bailey. You're in, all in.
If I did it again, I would probably plan it and I would release it in a 12-month cycle, but I would not write it as I was going.
Maybe pad
Probably
yourself a
write
couple
it.
months.
Yeah, I would probably give myself like a 6-month head start this time.
I mean, with Calendar's End, we had a 5-month start from what you wrote in Nano from that year before, but I feel like you would feel better and more confident and less stressed because at Calendar's End was hell. I feel like you'd be less stressed if you wrote it all out and then we released it over the next year instead of actively writing and releasing all in 30 days. But we could do it again, just better planned.
It's super ambitious.
Kind
Wow.
of a direct question then. I mean, there are planners, there are pantsers, and then there are plantsers, and I'm more of a pantser. But when you're writing as more of a pantser, isn't the high stress better for your writing, so you're not second guessing yourself, or do you find that it's worse?
It's I think for the creative process and like keeping that looming deadline, that you know, the sort of Damocles kind of thing is like, yeah, it works. It's great. I don't have any time to think about anything but that word count and getting that story done. But like for everything else, like once I'm done, it's like, boom, okay, now I need to start working on the next month, but I can't because I have to edit and I have to make sure that my cover guy is working on everything that he's doing. And there's a lot more things that get involved that I would, like Bailey was saying, we would actually have to plan it better this time, so that I could focus more on the writing. Because I need, like we've had this discussion in the discussion group. I would love it so much if I could just be a writer, not the promoter and the like the art director and everything else. I just want to write and hand it off to everybody and like let them do my promoting and all that stuff.
Right.
I'm 100%
Yeah,
with you,
yeah.
but staying on this theme for just a second, with that in mind, have you considered, trying to find people that, hey, would you take care of my covers? Would you take care of my editing, and becoming engaged in that direction, at least for another project? Or is it difficult?
Do have my friend Brian is my cover artist, and Bailey is my editor. I think my bigger problem is like I just said it and I believe it, but when I actually get down to having the opportunity to pass things off, I become a control freak. So all of a sudden I don't want anyone else messing with my stuff. So we'll see if I ever actually let it go enough.
That's horribly sad.
To...
I know an editor who recently, I know this is a sidestep, but I know an editor who recently took on a project, and she went back to the person after going through the entire book, and they said, well, you weren't allowed to make changes. And it was stunning, but we've got to let go a little.
Isn't that kind of the definition of what an editor does?
Well, I thought so, but hey, who am I? I'm
Yeah.
just some weird guy.
I've had a couple clients like that too, where they're like, well, I didn't want you to change it. I just wanted you to look at it. Like, okay, but that's not what you said when we signed up together.
That's not the definition of editing. That's the definition of beta reading.
Right.
There's a difference.
That's not even beta reading, I don't think. That's more like, hey, pay me to read your book. Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
How do I get
Anyone else have questions, comments for Andy?
I
Anybody
thought of
gets
one-
to talk?
I thought of one that I asked yesterday too, but I'm going to ask it tonight as well. So
yeah.
I am not really a short story writer. I think I've maybe tried to write 2 in my entire life. So what advice would you give to someone to how to tackle a short story, coming from the mindset of, no, I've only ever written novels? What advice would you give them to really get into that mindset of, no, I need to really wrap all of this up in this much shorter format?
I would say start with, at least people who write long form, start with an idea that you know is not good enough for novel length. Like one of those, I know a lot of people are like, they're like, I've always wanted to write this story, but like, how do you drag it out long enough? Take one of those ideas and then just start, just start working with it. And I wouldn't even look at the numbers. Don't look at the word count. Just work on fleshing out one of those more minute ideas and see what you can do with it. Do, instead of, like a movie, you're working on a scene within that movie. Something, just get yourself beginning to end, encapsulate that idea, and see how far you got, see what you've done.
I like that. I like that approach.
Thank you.
I've always noticed the difference between writing a novel and writing shorts is the difference between writing a book and writing a chapter. In my head, that's how I have to approach it. I'm not writing a whole book, I'm just writing a chapter. Because even chapters have to have beginning, middles, and ends, right?
Yep.
But I like your movie idea because I think it makes it easier for people to imagine where the stop might be. Oh, that's a commercial break. Right.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Andy? Okay, so I know Andy's background is in film. Yes. And I have always wanted to ask, I don't think I've ever asked you this before. It was actually on my list of things to ask when you were in the studio, and we never got to it.
Well,
a lot of things now. We didn't get to. So let's just look at the novels right now. Out of House of 13 or Threshold or Empty Hallways, which one would you like to see as a film? And then which two actors would you choose as the antagonist and protagonist for each? For whatever one you wanted to choose. Like, so choose one and then tell me who you want to play the antagonist and protagonist for that story.
That's hardly fair.
No,
Oh,
that's
come
not-
on.
I mean, so like I kind of I'm going to go with one. It's not necessarily the one I think would be my favorite on film, but it's the one I've had the most time to think about, would be Empty Hallways. Because I kind of, that one, to get all my voices down in the story and to make sure I had like consistent voices, I actually cast it ahead of time. And like, so when I was writing it, I had those people in mind with all the mannerisms and all the things that they were saying. So
Okay.
it was actually God, now I can't. David. David was going to be played by Aaron Eckhart, who was
Okay.
actually kind of big at the time. It was Batman Begins, I think, was in theaters. And the bad guy was going to be Anthony Stewart Head. He was going to play Dr. Schrader. He is,
Okay.
he's from Buffy.
Okay.
He was also from Repo, the Genetic Opera. But yeah, and then I had a bunch of minor cast characters that were here and there, but those were my big ones.
But who was supposed to be Maddie?
Maddie is kind of faceless. Like, you could take anybody and throw makeup on that person and some CGI and it works.
I don't think so. I think Bailey and I are together on this. You don't
That's
think
such
so,
a
do you,
cop
Bailey?
out.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So Threshold, I would love to see done in the theater or see done as a movie, but it would be such a pain in the butt. I would be so angry. I can't even imagine people getting it right. Like, in my head, the way I see it, I would be angry the entire time.
So what would be the biggest challenge?
You are dealing with, you're dealing with a lot of people not being themselves. So like, you're dealing with the supernatural reflection that is trying to be you but is not. So like, have you ever done the pantomime game where like you have the other person and you're trying to do that? Like, so that, but I don't think anybody would ever be able to do it the way I see it in my head playing out. Like, slightly off, but not off. And like, I just don't think you can get the camera angles in the way that like you see it playing out as you're writing it. So I'm sure somebody could do a wonderful job with it, but as the person who, like, created this all in my head, like, I would never be satisfied.
So you'd be another Stephen King, the writer that hates his creation.
Well, in fairness, his movies are all terrible.
Actually, if you saw the second version of The Shining, it is so close to the book. The first version with Jack Nicholson is the one everybody likes, but the second version is so close to the book that it's actually really good.
That is true, the Steven Weber version.
Correct.
But it's so long.
Yeah, well, so is Return of the King. It's so long, but it's really well done. So, okay, they did them out of order. That's a whole other conversation, but still, it was pretty well done.
Yeah, we don't want to go down this path. We'll blow your half hour to pieces.
Right.
Yeah, easily.
When we're all able to come in, we'll have like a coffee day and we will have this conversation.
Absolutely, I would love that.
Tea works as well.
I'm going to have cocoa and we'll just sit around the table and we'll do that. I'm so excited. They're building a round table studio at CNM TV, which means we can have 12 people around a table and have these conversations.
Sweet.
Can I bring a sword to put in the middle?
Sure.
Everybody's
Why not?
going to agree with the guy with the sword.
Yeah.
Oh, we're looking forward to that when the governor says we're allowed to do that again.
Cool.
Who else has questions for Andy? We've got about 5 minutes or so. So if anybody has questions or comments at this point, now would be a good time.
I have a quick comment, just what
Yeah.
you were saying about, not how the character her actors couldn't do justice to the characters. It just reminded me, I remember when I read The General's Daughter, the author, it's like Nelson Melville, something like that. He said he's never seen the movie. He has never seen it. He was only on there present for the filming of it for like 2 days, because he went on about, and I think William Goldman says the same thing, is like authors aren't really welcome on the set. They don't want you there. But I thought that was really interesting, where he said, I knew that they would do a good job, but it wasn't going to be what was in my head. And so to reconcile that, he said he has never once seen the movie, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if I have that kind of, I don't know if I have the strength not to. Like, how do you avoid your own creation for your entire life?
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
like people are going to come and talk to you about it.
Right. Like, oh, didn't you
Right.
hate what John Travolta did in that? Like, I have no opinion on this.
So, from a standpoint, Andy, of your creation, and you have a lot of very good short stories. Have you turned one of those short stories into a short movie? And if so, can you post links to it?
I have not. The only thing I have is I co-wrote and co-directed a short superhero film called Atlas a number of years ago, and we've never actually put it. We were only selling it like at booths, so we still need to get that out and online places.
Andy,
Yeah.
I have a limited quantity. If
Do you
you
still
would,
have some?
I do. I
Nice.
think I have 6 left.
Okay.
I will check in my bookstore, and if you want me to ship them to anybody, you let me know.
Yeah.
Seems
I'm
silly
just
for me to
curious.
ship them back to you and then have you ship them out, but so just let me know and we can do that.
Yeah.
But I think I still have 6 left. I will double check. I'll look.
Cool. But yeah,
Um,
no, I've always I wrote to when I was in film school, I wrote to create. And then when I got burnt out on film, I just decided to start just writing for writing. And it was because it was so much easier to just say what I wanted people to see. So I
mhm.
didn't have to worry about budget constraints or special effects or getting the actors to do things right. So I've never really bothered pushing to video very much.
Well, the winter is coming. It's going to be cold out. You got volunteers. I'm sure you could put together a movie based on something you've already got written.
I don't know which story you could be referring to. I mean, that's
No,
odd.
I have some really big cameras.
Either that or just write one about a bunch of authors that get together for a overnight writing blitz, and then just murder and mayhem ensues. You've got like a whole room full of volunteers right there.
Awesome.
We could all play real life Among Us.
Yeah.
You know, it would be so much fun, Andy. You write it, we'll get together and we'll read it on Zoom.
I'm in.
I
Try
have a
that.
That sounds like fun.
All right.
So,
I committed to something.
Andy,
Yeah, we
Okay,
committed
so-
to do it.
Hey, I've been
So-
told
so-
I should be committed, so that's,
so Andy, we just volunteered you.
You were voluntold.
Yeah, that I'm used.
And not like you don't have enough to do in your life right now, but there's something else. When you get it written, send me the writing and I'll edit it down to script format, or Bailey can edit it to script format, and then I'll send it out to everybody. We'll put out a call for auditions, and then anybody who wants to be a part of it, we don't even have to audition. We can just do a thing.
Okay.
So,
Sounds
you know,
good.
in your copious amounts of spare time.
Absolutely. Always, always. That's all I have is spare time.
Yeah, you and me both.
Lounging about all day.
Yeah, it's just
Such is
me and
the
the
life
Reese's
of a
peanut.
famous author.
I know. It's me and the Reese's peanut butter cups all day long. That's all I do. Okay, we got to wrap this up, you guys. I know we could spend another 2 hours chatting and having a good time. We will definitely have to do this again if Andy's willing.
Always.
So thanks everybody for coming out. Let's see if I can do the
Thank you
magic
all.
of technology again. I hate technology sometimes. There's Andy Lockwood. Which cat is that, Andy?
That is Tuck.
That's Tuck. Okay. So Andy and Tuck, you want to find Andy Lockwood's books, I will put a link up on our Facebook page so you can find his book, all of them actually. And then you can also connect with Andy on our Facebook page as well. Reach out to him and he will talk to you there. So thank you everybody for coming out. This has been Pages Promotions Virtual Book Festival, Autumn 2020, a production of Indie Reads TV. And we find our home on CNM TV in Troy, Michigan. Thank you everybody for coming. This has been super, super fun. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.